All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. It's John at Matchless Web. Today, I am joined by Donata Skillrud. Donata and her husband, Hans, are the wonderful crew behind Termageddon. Termageddon is a privacy policy generator that I have found to be a wonderful solution that I think basically anybody that has a website should know about. And Donata is going to just kind of help us today. I'll play devil's advocate a little bit, throwing some questions at her, just to get down to the bottom of this question of, do I really need a privacy policy in terms of conditions, that kind of thing, for my website? So, Donata, thank you so much for being here. Do you have anything you'd like to say before I pick your brain a little on this topic?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you about privacy and privacy policies and different policies that website owners and especially small business owners need. Before we start, I did want to mention that even though I am a licensed attorney in Illinois, anything that I say today will not be legal advice. So if you do need legal advice for your specific legal issues, I definitely recommend contacting an attorney in your area.
Yeah. And just real quick, can you say just a little more about your experience? Like why the heck should we listen to you? I know you're an expert, but can you tell us just a little more of your background and maybe how it is that you and Hans even got into this business?
Sure. So just as I said, I'm an attorney licensed in Illinois. I'm also a certified information privacy professional. I'm the chair of the Chicago chapter of the International Association of Privacy Professionals and the vice chair of the American Bar Association's e-privacy committee. Through my work at the ABA, I've actually helped legislators on what privacy laws should look like and how they should pass privacy laws or not pass certain privacy laws and how to go about all of that. And I'm the legal engineer behind Termageddon. So I'm the one who wrote all of the policy questionnaires, all of the text, all of the different variations. And as a big part of my job, I keep those policies up to date. So a big part of my day is keeping track of privacy bill proposals, which right now in the US, there's over 20 of those. So there's a lot of things that are changing in the privacy world, but through my work at the IAPP and the ABA, kind of help to keep track of all of that and make sense of it.
Yeah. Very lovely, succinct description of all gosh, you do so many things and you have quite the resume there. So let's see, one additional thing. So before we talk about, do we even need a privacy policy? Guys, if you haven't seen it coming, you do need one for your website, no matter how small you are. But can you give us a quick explainer just on the service? I'll share my screen really quickly of the Termageddon website. And just if you can give us a quick overview of what the service is, because we've mentioned Termageddon, but now can you just tell us what specifically the service you guys offer is all about?
Yeah, so we're a policy generator for websites. So for anyone that has never written a privacy policy or terms of service before, the way it works, regardless of who you work with, or the way it should work, more accurately speaking, is that you first need to figure out what privacy laws apply to your business, because those privacy laws dictate what your privacy policy says. So Termageddon is basically a series of questions that our software asks you. So the first set of questions will help us determine what privacy laws apply to you, and therefore what disclosures your privacy policy needs to contain. And then the remainder of the questions are based on those required disclosures. So after you answer all of those questions, your answers will be used to customize your policies for you to make sure that they fit your business exactly. So with us, you get the policy text itself, and then you also get something that's called an embed code. So the embed code is what your website designer will put on your website's privacy policy page, for example, and that's what displays the policies. And when existing privacy laws are amended or new regulations are passed or new privacy law is passed, we can go in through that embed code and update your policy text with the new disclosures that are required by that change. So basically, the way we work is you purchase one license, and one license includes all the protection that you need for your website. So it has a privacy policy, terms of service, disclaimer, and end user license agreement. And we don't charge based on, what laws you need to comply with or what protections you need. It's just one price of $99 a year or $10 a month. And as time goes on, we monitor these changes for you and then update your policies as the laws change. So that's kind of the gist of the Termageddon service.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It sounds even better when you describe it. I try to sing the praises of Termageddon, and I feel I just don't do it justice until people actually get on the platform and use it on their own website. And yeah, my absolute favorite thing about this is, if you are a website owner, and let's say you built your own website, maybe you don't have a web designer, or maybe you do have a web designer that's helped you put some things together. If you or whoever's helped you with your site has set this up for you once, you've got the embed code in place on your website, there, you don't have to touch it again. It is going to automatically update without you lifting a finger. As long as you're subscribed to the service, your site, your business will be covered by the policies, and you don't have to, hire someone out to go in and manually change this stuff on an ongoing basis. It is so worth the investment. And again, it's really a no-brainer to use Termageddon on your website. So again, whether this is something that you might be interested in setting up yourself for your own site, or if you need to clue in your web designer or developer to hook this up for you, it is absolutely something worth checking out. So yeah, thank you for that intro on it. This little short video, it's like a minute and a half on this page, is a super succinct, description of the service. So if you've not been to the Termageddon site before, please do check that out, because it is another great summary of the service. So I'll kill the screen share there, and let's just do like a little Q&A. So I will, okay, I'm a web designer, maybe front end developer. That might be a stretch for me. I really just consider myself a WordPress dude. Like, I do some things with WordPress. I've broken enough things and figured out how to put them back together again just by, I keep Googling stuff and it keeps working, and I've, made a business out of it. So thank you, Google and YouTube University. So like, I do this kind of thing, and I help set this up for clients of mine. But if I play the role of someone who, maybe doesn't have the foundational knowledge that I might have. So if I were, say, I'm starting a new business, I've just made a website, or someone's made a website for me. I've already spent some money on the site. I've, made that investment. I'm already kind of like, I really want to get this site off the ground with, minimal investment as possible. I'm tight on cash. Why should I even consider making this extra investment? Because to me, if I'm a new business owner who's just spent money on the site, it just seems like an extra cost. Am I just being nickeled and dimed by, if the web designer, has suggested it to me? Are they just trying to get more money out of me? Like, why, I've paid maybe hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on a new website. Why should I even be, curious about pursuing this? Can't I just get the site started and then maybe check this out later?
Yeah. So first of all, if you go with Termageddon, the fee is $99 a year or $10 a month. So if your website designer is, telling you to sign up for this, they're not buying a yacht from it. They're not getting rich off of you, off of that fee, right? And a lot of people think that, maybe I'll launch the website now, and maybe if I have more visitors or if I have more form submissions later, that's when I'll think about this, right? But the reality is that privacy laws start applying to you the moment that you collect personal information. So the moment that you get form submission number one, or website visitor number one, if you have Google Analytics or something like that, that's when privacy laws start applying to you. So most privacy laws don't care how many website visitors you have or how many form submissions you have. You don't have to have millions of visitors or millions of form submissions for those laws to apply. And a lot of business owners think that they're not collecting personal information on their website. So and that's really a pretty bad misconception. I think, our industry has kind of failed there a little bit in explaining that. And personal information is really any information that could identify somebody. So examples would be names, emails, phone numbers, addresses, or like IP addresses, right? So if you look at your website and if you have a contact form that collects names and emails, if you have Google Analytics that collects IP addresses, you are collecting personal information. Even though it might not seem that personal to you, it is personal information, and that information can be covered by privacy laws. And the fact is that with privacy laws, there can be very heavy fines for non-compliance. So for example, in the US, fines start at $2,500 per website visitor whose privacy rights you infringed upon by, for example, collecting their information without displaying a compliant privacy policy. And $2,500 per website visitor can really add up, even if you have 100 website visitors from California per month, for example. So it's really important to note that, while this may be an investment to get your privacy policy up or to get your terms of service up, not making that investment could really lead to a lot of issues in the long run. And those issues are not just fines and violations and all of that, which will take up a lot of your time to sort through and figure out and pay, especially if you're just getting started. That could be a lot of money, but it's also losing the trust of your customers or your potential customers. And a lot of small business owners think that businesses don't, or that consumers don't necessarily care about their privacy. And while that was true 10, 20 years ago, it's not true today. So consumers are looking out for privacy policies more often on websites and are less likely to do business with businesses that don't offer that privacy policy or that clearly don't care about that customer's privacy. So it's important to invest in this, not just from a fines and violations perspective, but also from the perspective of respecting your customers or your prospective customers as well. I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I was muted. Someone decided to start mowing their yard. Very inconsiderate of them to not check in with me to see if I was doing an interview today. So yes, thank you. Yeah, great summary of why this is important. So, and I will just say, as a web designer myself, that piece you mentioned at the very end of consumers being on the lookout for privacy policies, to someone who's maybe not in this field, you might think, or if you just have a website, you might think, is anyone really looking for that kind of thing on my website? Or like, surely, I'm just this small little business, I don't even have that many visitors. Surely no one's actually looking for that on my site. And I'm telling you that they are. Okay. This is nothing to sleep on. Just like customers are very, website visitors are very savvy to know, hey, if they're going to be either filling out a contact form on your website, or if they're going to be submitting payment, if you're doing any kind of e-commerce on your website, they're also looking for that little green padlock in the URL bar to see, is this a secure website? Is there, they may not know that it's called an SSL certificate, but users are looking to see, hey, is this website secure? Because nowadays, if you do not have that little green padlock, there may be, like a red line drawn through that little lock icon. Your website may get flagged as being not secure by Google. So like these kinds of things, though you as the website owner may not feel that anyone's paying attention, but they really are. And so though the privacy policy stuff might seem like, I can absolutely see how it could feel like, I don't know, it just seems like an extra expense. I don't know if I want to even get involved with that. The cost that it could lead to if you don't invest in it can just be exponentially larger than the investment that you put in to protect yourself on the front end. And so, saying this not to scare anyone, but it's honestly like it's in your best interest to have a privacy policy, terms and conditions, just any of those relevant policies. It is in your best interest. And so none of this is, like fear mongering. It's just saying like, these are things that could, absolutely sneak up on you and get you in trouble. So, and you mentioned in your example, Donata, California, visitors from California. Now, why would let's say, so I'm in Mississippi. Why should I be concerned if someone from another state or someone from another country, for that matter, visits my website? I'm in my state. Shouldn't I only be concerned with laws that are specific to where I live?
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Unfortunately, privacy laws are different than most other laws in the sense that they have a very broad reach. So privacy laws protect consumers and not businesses. So that means that the privacy laws of other states or other countries could apply to you. So it's really not about where you're located. It's about where you do business, where you offer goods or services, whose personal information you're collecting, and who you are tracking online. So a great example, California has two privacy laws, one of which is the California Online Privacy and Protection Act, CALOPA. And that one applies to any website that collects the personal information of California consumers. Now, as you know, anyone from anywhere could potentially submit their information to your website, including consumers from California, meaning that that law will apply to pretty much any modern website that has a contact form or that has analytics. So that just kind of illustrates how privacy laws can apply to you, even if you're not located in that particular state. Same thing with Europe's privacy law, right? If you're located in Europe, GDPR will apply to you. But if you're not located in Europe, it can apply to you if you're actively offering goods or services there. Or if you are tracking the behavior of European Union consumers online. And that's where most US businesses get caught up, is in that second part, because if you have analytics, that means you're tracking the behavior of anyone online that comes onto your website. So you need to make sure that you're compliant with that law. And what that means is essentially you need to make sure that you know what privacy laws apply to you. And I did want to note that there have been a lot of developments in privacy law recently. So Colorado just passed their privacy law. Virginia passed a privacy law a couple of months ago. So this is something that's constantly evolving. So even if you think that you're not located in that state and maybe you're just going to roll the dice and see what happens, your state will probably be next, because we don't have a federal privacy law in the United States that governs websites. So each state has taken it upon themselves to pass their own privacy law. So right now we have California, Nevada, we have Delaware, Colorado, and Virginia that have their own privacy laws. And there are a lot more states that are proposing their own privacy bills that could pass soon. So you need to make sure you keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah. So this stuff reaches across state lines, across, country lines. So this is not necessarily just a local issue. Again, whether your state has laws or not, or whether your country has laws or not, you receive any visitors, any traffic, even if it's, maybe you could say, I didn't even want those people to land on my site. If they do, there could still be implications there where you could be found to be at fault if you're not covered with your policy. Now, could you maybe speak just a little bit, Donata, to whether you're targeting visitors in a specific country versus maybe someone, from Europe just incidentally winds up on your site, but you're not actively maybe running paid ad campaigns or specifically trying to get users from a geographical location where these laws apply.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll start off with the accidental website visitor. So let's say you're a plumber in Missouri and you do business in Missouri and you would never travel even out of your state to perform services, right? And somebody from Europe accidentally ends up on your website because they're searching for plumbers and you're on page one.
You're a really good plumber.
You're a really good plumber, or you have a really good website designer and you're on page one. If you have analytics, you are tracking that person's behavior online, which means that GDPR can apply to you, which means that you need to comply with that law, even if you've never actually spoken to them or targeted them or anything like that. So if you have analytics, you still need to comply with that law. Now, let's say you don't have analytics. What does it mean to offer goods or services to somebody in the EU? So offering goods or services is a lot more than just having a website that's generally available, right? So just because your website is up there and out there and anybody can visit it, that doesn't mean that you're offering goods or services all over the world. Even though some people might like to think that they do, it's much better for you if you don't think that, right? So offering goods or services means actively offering them. So great examples are including your website in one of the EU languages, such as French or German, right? If you have your website available in English and then French, you're clearly trying to target people who speak French, who are outside of the United States and possibly in France and the EU. Offering a special phone number that people from the EU can call. So, the phone numbers in the EU are a lot different than the phone numbers in the US. If you have a special phone number that can be called, let's say toll free from France, and it's specifically set up in France to auto forward to your phone or something like that, it's a specific French phone number, then you are offering goods or services there. And then also if you are potentially providing reviews by your customers in the EU. So if you're saying, John from France said this about my business, that could potentially be seen as targeting people in France or in the EU as an offer of services. So it's things like that. It's a lot more than just having a website available. It's actually specifically targeting people in those countries by offering information in those languages, offering phone numbers in those countries, things like that. It's a lot more than just having a website available.
Yeah. Great point there about the language stuff, because I know something that's common for clients that may have, or if you're someone that has a website that is using something like the WPML, that it's that WordPress multilingual plugin that can kind of auto translate with pretty good accuracy your website into another language, so that if someone accesses your website from an IP address that is associated with a specific geographical location, you could have a little pop-up that shows on the site and says like, hey, translate this site into whatever language. So, if you're trying to do business with as many people as possible, and you're trying to have that global reach with your website, using functionality like that is absolutely, if you weren't already convinced that privacy laws apply to you just by doing e-commerce online anyway, certainly the fact that you translate your site into other languages really ramps that up. It's like, okay, these would be red flags all over the place, that if you're not covered by a privacy policy, you absolutely do need one. So I think you've done a great job of highlighting how these privacy laws worldwide can apply to you, whether you are intentionally targeting users in a specific state or country or not. It's really kind of, if you're online, chances that this applies to you are virtually 100%. Maybe there's some cases where none of this applies. If you just have a static website with no forms, no analytics, no third-party integrations, like you don't have a Facebook pixel tracking behavior, you don't have maybe Facebook Messenger that is just, the chat widget in the bottom corner of your website. If you have none of that, it's just a static brochure site, which is exceedingly rare. Those websites, if they exist now, they were built 10 plus maybe more years ago. So if you have any kind of modern website, this essentially applies to you. So if there was any doubt, let this video be confirmation. You absolutely do need to be concerned with this. And Termageddon is a excellent service and product for you to integrate into your website to help cover you and your business. Make that investment and just take care of yourself on the front end, so you avoid any headaches that could come from not being compliant with these privacy laws. Let's see, is there anything else that comes to your mind on this topic, Donata? Anything else you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think that a lot of business owners kind of hear this and get overwhelmed. Like, okay, man, there's like all these privacy laws that I'm probably not complying with, and what do I do now? And I think the first step is just looking through your website and understanding what information you collect, thinking about what you do with that information, and thinking about who you share it with. And then getting that privacy policy up there, because really that's the first line of defense. That's the first thing. That's the easiest way to show non-compliance is no privacy policy. So just having that set up is really a great first step. And then another thing that I wanted to mention is some people might be tempted to just copy and paste their competitor's privacy policy or get a free template online and all of that. And I had to say, again, the first step is figuring out what privacy laws apply to you. Your competitors might be complying with a completely different set of privacy laws. And those privacy laws are very specific as to what your privacy policy needs to contain. So if you miss the disclosures from the laws that apply to you because you copied and pasted somebody's policy, or you got some template online, all of that, that's going to be an issue because you're not going to have all of the required disclosures that you need, and you're going to be not compliant. So if you're copying and pasting these policies, so first, you don't know what laws they need to comply with, even if by some magical occurrence, they were to need to comply with all the privacy laws that you need to comply with, you would have to review that policy to make sure it has all the required disclosures, which is going to take you hours because you have to read every single law. And again, by some magical occurrence, if the policy is perfect, right? You just so happen to stumble upon the perfect policy, it's not going to update when the laws change. So you either need to check your competitors' policies every week and make sure that they're accurate and up to date, or you need to have a strategy for keeping it up to date. And that's going to be an issue. And then lastly, a lot of people think that, okay, GDPR applies to me. I'm just going to pull a GDPR template online and it says that it's compliant, and I'm just going to paste that on my website. If I comply with GDPR, that means I comply with every other privacy law that applies to me. Also very wrong. So each law has its own specific disclosures. So for example, CalOPA requires you to disclose how your website responds to do not track signals. GDPR does not include that disclosure requirement because do not track is an antiquated technology that's barely used anymore. So if you comply with GDPR in your privacy policy, you're not going to comply with the other privacy laws because the structure is different. So you have to make sure that you understand what laws apply to you and then what disclosures your privacy policy needs to have based on that. So I really would caution against copying and pasting templates, or getting some free template online, or copying and pasting your competitors' policies. Make sure that you do this correctly because you're going to waste your time. You're going to waste a lot more time doing it incorrectly and then having to fix everything than doing it correctly in the first place.
Yeah, great points. And on I know that we've thrown around the acronym some, GDPR. Could you just give a quick snippet, just in case someone's not familiar with that, just what the acronym is, why it's a thing?
Sorry. So GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation. So that's a privacy law that protects the personal information of European Union consumers, right? So it gives them certain privacy rights. It requires businesses to have a legal basis for processing information. So for example, consent or a contract with a consumer or something similar. And it requires websites to have a privacy policy that has very specific disclosures. It's actually one of the most highly enforced privacy laws in the world. So if you ever have some free time and are bored out of your mind, I would suggest Googling GDPR Enforcement Tracker. And that will tell you all of the fines that have been issued for GDPR violations. And what's really interesting is that you'll see a lot of small businesses in there. So, when we look at the news, we hear of the Googles and the Facebooks being fined billions and billions of dollars. But what's really interesting with that law is that there has been a lot of enforcement against smaller businesses, including, businesses that violated the privacy rights of one person by, for example, changing that person's email in their records without that person's consent, things like that. So you'll see, pretty decent fines being issued to small businesses for that law's violation. And yeah, it's definitely one of the highly enforced laws in the world.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's really good info to have. And I was not aware of the enforcement tracker. I'll link that below the video here. And I had one other thing I was going to mention on that. Or did I? It must not have been that important. So let's just say that this has been a pretty thorough rundown on why you need a website privacy policy and what the obvious solution is. So if you do not actively have a privacy policy on your website, or if you have one and it is not Termageddon, that's a problem. You want to get a Termageddon privacy policy so that it auto-generates. You have it set up one time. You either do it yourself or hire someone out to do it for you if you don't want to get involved with your website. But it can literally work on any website. You just have a little code that you embed. And once it's set up, it takes care of you as long as you're subscribed. So it is entirely worth that investment. And again, in in consideration of what the potential costs, the downsides could be of not investing in this, it really is a no-brainer. So now that you have absolutely no reason to not get on board with Termageddon, if you'll just visit that link below. So I am an affiliate for Termageddon. So if you go through my link, I might get a kickback. Not might, I will get a kickback when you sign up. If you are interested in Termageddon, but you would rather just Google it and find it on your own, also fine. We can still be friends. Just kidding. You can get involved with Termageddon however you like. I hope you found this video informative and educational. Thank you so much, Donata, for your time. You've done a great service to the wonderful people of the internet today. So thank you. And thank Hans for what all you guys do for just making the internet a better, more privacy compliant place. So thanks so much. And is there anywhere else? So we have the Termageddon website that I'll link everyone to. Is there anywhere else that you'd like people to be able to find you or follow you online?
Yeah, you can see us on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. All of those are just at Termageddon.
At Termageddon. Got it. I will link all of those below. So, all right, Donata, until next time, thank you so much. Take care. And hopefully I'll be sending you some new users soon.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye.